Check 1, check 2. Mic check 1, mic check 2.
Microphone checker. What's your favorite kind of music? Yeah.
You know what I'm really on right now, and this is so weird. I was actually thinking about this because I've been listening to have you ever heard of the band Little Feat?
Maybe.
We're talking like New Orleans, like Leonard's, like New Orleans Leonard Skinner. It's like Leonard Skinner, but like better. Good, I guess.
No, but I need to know about this.
They're from like the 70s, and I'm just on this kick of this band called Little Feat. But we should probably start recording this. But I used to DJ.
Honey, I got it all.
You got it. You're good. All right.
I'm becoming quite the veteran. I'm like, you know what? I'm like,
Get all the pre-talk,
I'm like, this
'cause
is
that's
really
the good
dumb
stuff.
of me to not just start.
Yeah.
And I like the name alone. I mean, they're really getting me with these names. Okay.
This would be in like the band when they did Atlantic City.
Yeah.
This would be in the same. This would be in that, like, if Spotify made you a playlist.
Yeah.
This would be in that playlist. Maybe a little Three Dog Night.
Oh, you're really
Yeah.
you're getting me with Three Dog Night there.
Yeah.
You're going way back.
This might be a little. I mean, if you're familiar with New Orleans stuff, the Radiators.
No.
If you're familiar with the Revivalists, they're also a New Orleans band, but they're new.
Okay. I'm impressed.
It's just fun. I don't know. It's just easy listening. Like,
It seems very sophisticated. Like, this isn't like what I would expect, and I like it.
yeah.
So you're into Three Dog Night?
So I used to DJ back in the day.
Now
and
we're- okay,
Yeah.
now
So
we're-
like we can get it. I mean, we could probably spend a whole hour on just like appreciating different types of music.
Yeah.
And when you DJ, and especially how I DJ'd, you were forced to listen to music. I was forced to listen to Marilyn Manson. I was forced to listen to Britney Spears. I was forced to listen to like all these genres of music, AC/DC, that I would have never gotten into by choice. But since I had to play them, I got to appreciate, some really hard, deep, not like metal or some other stuff, like some AC/DC, some, really weird British, pop music that I would have probably never gotten into, the Smiths, some stuff like that. So I kind of cut my teeth like in music by just being forced to listen to a lot of genres that I probably wouldn't have naturally wandered into. So
Where were you DJing? Vegas?
I did DJ in Vegas for like a year and a half. I started here, and I was pretty much at all these clubs in Columbus. They were men's clubs. So I was hoping to get into that a little bit later, so I can at least establish a little bit of a reputation before the shitbag comes out. But
Right. Yeah.
So I did that like throughout my 20s, and that took me all over the country.
How fun was that?
DJing
Was
in
that the most fun?
DJing strip clubs. I still, other than like not being all that proud of just being like, hey, I was a strip club DJ for like the better part of my 20s.
Represent.
I still have some of the best people in my life, best friends, acquaintances. Like, it was one of the best times in my life, and not just because of the obvious things. It was just a really good place to spend your 20s, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. So I eventually had to get out of that because your parents kept asking you, like, you going to get a real job sometime? But
No, so I love strip clubs.
yeah, do you really?
So I haven't been to one recently. I think the last time I was at a strip club was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But my girlfriends and I would go to strip clubs. Like, we're talking like maybe a couple times a year.
Sure.
But I loved it. I loved that it was so dark,
Yeah.
and I loved the music. The music was always on point. And I was always in total awe of the women that could, especially like the headliners. I just felt like
totally.
it was an art. And I know that sounds really weird because it's a strip club, but some of these women, the athletic ability to be able to be on the wall like that. So I just always enjoyed a good strip club. I really did.
Yeah, there's kind of like the sad versions of strip clubs, which is just kind of like the sad, depressing things. But then there's the show clubs that are really impressive. And I worked at a show club. I worked at some of the best clubs in the country.
Yeah.
All the way up to Vegas. I always said I was on the King of Shit Mountain for a long time.
Oh my God! So solid gold, man. That was we had some fun times there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So if you had to pick a song to go on a road trip, like what's one of your anthems? Like my brother calls it the Mount Rushmore of music, where you would pick like 4 songs.
Yeah.
Like, do you have one that you just like that just gives you all the feels?
I don't know about songs necessarily, but I could probably do my like top 5 albums because I've done this exercise, and it's kind of all over the board.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Dangerous, absolutely one of my favorite albums. Paul Simon, Graceland, absolutely one of my favorite albums. I'm a huge Deadhead. Like, I am Grateful Dead fan. I got stickers on the back of my car type Grateful Dead fan. So,
okay.
American Beauty by the Dead. I've been listening lately to like a ton of Spoon and Cold War Kids, like just as far as like new music.
Yeah.
And Jam. And I think I went off my albums there, but I'm just going to start doing artists here.
So I love Paul Simon.
Oh my God. I've seen Paul Simon live a handful of times, and he's such a treasure.
Did you see, he's a national treasure, that man. Did you see him when he was with Garfunkel?
Yes.
So did I.
And wasn't it funny how annoyed he looked?
The
whole time you just kind of looked pissed off that he was there.
I wasn't dialed into that, but I think there was like, you never thought in a million years they'd get back together to do that.
Right.
And
like once in a lifetime, right?
Yeah. But it was amazing.
Fantastic. You'll never hear those songs live with those two singing probably ever again.
What do you think your favorite Simon and Garfunkel song would be? If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick Simon and Garfunkel, I mean, Only Living Boy in New York. I'm so glad that got brought back from, what was that movie that it was in?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll think about
it. But that's an amazing song.
So good. And it kind of got lost. It was one of those it was almost like Bohemian Rhapsody that it just got lost, and then like a movie brought it back.
Yeah.
Garden State brought it back. And then it got brought back, and it's just like people love it. It gets introduced to an entirely new like generation of people. So,
we had it first.
We had it first.
Totally. He was our national treasure first. Right. So just remember that.
Yeah, take your place.
Oh my God.
Children.
You go by Mikey.
I do.
All the time?
I always introduce myself as Mike, but
don't call you Michael.
Everybody calls me Mikey, so I've been dealing with it for 25 years. And now my name's on the sign, so.
Okay, Mikey Sorboro. Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
I'm so glad to be here.
It's good to meet you finally.
Yeah, likewise. I've been a fan from afar from a number of years now.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that you came to one class. Really, we should really think to ourselves, God, do we scare people that much?
Well, no, it was me. It wasn't you guys. It was 100% me.
And do you remember the class you took?
If you told me, I would probably remember. It was a total body-ish thing. It was just moving for like 45 to an hour straight.
Did you use weights, heavy weights?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so it's probably a clock, and that's probably the problem.
Yeah, and it was great. I just wasn't working out, and I was like, I'm going to work out now. And just going from zero to what you guys do it was intense.
Yeah.
For somebody that was fat and happy like I was, so fat and motivated.
Were you fat?
I was never fat.
Let's call it overweight.
I was just out of shape, I mean, I was never like big,
You're
10,
soft.
15 pounds.
You're
I
a
was
little
soft. Oh my God.
Like if we walked up to you,
like moist bread.
Okay.
Yep. I was Pillsbury Doughboy.
Nothing wrong with a little softness.
I think there's a time and there's a place for it. So when you're like me, when you like make pizza for a living and you're drinking a lot just because you don't have a family or, things like that. So, there's a time and place for it. And then you start turning late 30s, early 40s, and you're like, well, can't do that anymore.
Gotta snag me a wife. I gotta snag me a woman.
Well, it's more like I'm going upstairs to go to bed, and I'm about to take a break halfway up because my heart feels like it's going to pound out of my chest.
Or that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, like I'm 38 and I'm having trouble going upstairs. Like, can't do this forever.
So, reading your interviews and listening to some of your podcasts, I could just tell you're a very endearing human. And I can just tell that. Like, I'm sure you have your quirks and your things that probably drive certain people crazy, right? Like we all do, like your wife.
Sure. Yeah.
Wink, wink. But I could just tell the authenticity and just sort of the happenstance upon which you kind of just were moving through life. And this just kind of all just started happening, not for you. Like you had to work for it, right?
Yeah.
You had to put the pieces together.
Oh, totally.
But isn't it interesting how someone who kind of went to school at Ohio State dropped out? I feel the same way. I didn't drop out, but I was, when I say a horrible student,
right?
Like legit, I still have a dream. I have recurring dreams. Do you have any recurring dreams?
I do, but they're weird.
So are mine. We should talk about them real quick.
Yeah,
so I have one. I had to go through a lot of teeth trauma. Mine
are teeth too.
So mine is that my teeth start falling out.
Yes.
And I can't. You have that too?
And you know where I think it stemmed from? Like I don't know like what like in my life, but like sometimes I would like put things in my mouth to like screws or something if I'm working on a project, or like thumbtacks. And so I had this like feeling of this like these things in my mouth, and then I just have these dreams about like teeth falling out.
Okay,
nuts, right?
So random. So I have that, and then I have one that I'm still in high school and I can't get out.
Yeah,
and then I have one that I'm still trying to graduate from college, and my dad's in my ear, and I'm like trying to make an appointment with a counselor, and that stems from me being such a, when I say there's not enough lag time in the H, horrible student. Math 05 slow. I was in. Okay. I did not go to class. My interest level in college was a -10.
as it probably should have been.
Well,
for
now,
a level
but
of
now,
math class like that.
Aren't you kind of in awe now of kids today that actually have this other like, oh wait, there's all this other shit you can possibly do. But anyway, 05 slow. I had not gone to class enough that they had changed the final. And I went to the whatever hall to take this final and just bomb it, right?
Yeah.
Make stick figures, whatever. It wasn't even there.
Oh no!
Well, I mean, this is
it would have already been done, or it wasn't there.
They moved it,
yeah,
and I didn't know. I mean, there was no, social
there wasn't
media,
emails or anything,
right?
Like that.
So then, luckily, I got my shit together enough to figure out a major and then do. Probably you had to have like a 3.0 in it.
Yeah.
But if you take the average of what I did, it was not.
So what do you think the problem was? Do you think you were just unmotivated by higher education, or you thought there was another way to do it, or you just did it because your parents were like, you're going to do this or we'll disown you?
Really good question. I was not interested. I was interested in the classes I remember liking the most, Shakespeare, and then this art history class.
Yep.
I got a job at Roosters. I was a bartender on 161, RIP 161.
I know.
And when I say that job transformed my life, I met salespeople who would come in there and I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You're rolling up in BMWs. You're here at 3:00 drinking a Miller Lite. I got to get down. I got to understand more, right? So I always was very into making money. And I didn't know exactly, what was going on, but I was drawn to like a sales career. And I ended up getting this bang up sales job out of college and just crushing it.
Yeah. In what industry?
IT.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, dog eat dog out there.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
The whole ILEC, CLEC, the monopoly was, busted. And
was that a boys club at the time? Like, did you find it was like harder to get into just because?
So no, I never felt, my entire sales career, so it was XO Communications, and then I transferred to SBC and AT&T.
Yep.
So I was in a massive corporate structure with a bunch of white men in suits.
Yeah.
I loved it. I always saw the difference as an advantage. Like when I would walk in and I had heels, pearls, smelling good, hair pulled back, I felt like I owned the room.
Sure.
I didn't feel like, oh, I'm the only woman here.
Right.
I was like, I'm the only woman here.
Yeah. And you commanded the room. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I would tell people too out there, like that feel like, oh, if you have a different edge, if you have something that's unique and different than all this homogenous shit that's sitting in the conference room, run with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Run with that.
I think there's a little bit, and I'm so glad finally somebody coined the phrase big dick energy.
Oh yeah.
Because like we've needed to use that. We needed a term for that for so long. And I almost wore this shirt today, except I was wearing it earlier when I was working. And our company shirts now say big slice energy.
Oh God, I love that.
And it has a big, pizza slice on our little pizza guy. So big slice energy. But I think there's something about having a little bit, and if you don't have it naturally, growing that muscle, and just like having a little bit of confidence when you walk into somewhere, command the room, like have a little bit of big dick energy.
Yeah. Swagger.
Yeah, swagger. Right.
So I love that you say, I kind of went to Ohio State, I dropped out, and what I read, you were like, I didn't regret it for 1 minute.
Still don't.
Of course not, right?
No, in fact, furthermore, I will talk any high school kids out of going to college unless they needed to, unless they want to go for something very specific,
Yep.
Veterinary, they want to be a doctor, a lawyer, you have to have higher education. But finding out, not knowing what you want to do, which is the majority of us, and then not only trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up by going through college and then going in debt for it, and I think especially going in debt for it, is the worst thing you can do as a young adult. is trying to figure out what you want to be in life by going to college and not taking a year off and traveling or finding a job that in something that interests you and deciding, where to go from there.
And the thing with you was you were footing the bill for your own college.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Totally.
so some of these kids out there who've got mom and dad paying for their college, there's really no risk there, right? It's like, I'll figure it out. I'm going to go party, join a fraternity or sorority, and then we'll see what happens. But you were like, all right, this is burning a hole. Like, this is not good for me because I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm going to be X amount of dollars in debt. So you were you were astute enough back then to be like, Audi.
I remember.
Oh my God, wait, I just said Audi.
Audi.
Remember that?
I do.
Audi 5000 G?
Yeah, that was
back.
Early 2000s.
Bring it back. Audi 5000 G. We're bringing
We're going to bring it back, right?
We're going to bring
Old
that
school
shit
pizza
back.
party.
Yeah.
Audi. Love it. I remember when I was Audi of college. I remember when I decided I'm Audi.
That just came from, I don't even know where, a nook and cranny in my brain.
That is something just like, I think it was the pizza.
It was the pizza.
Something was just like,
oh my
right.
God, it's amazing. So you drop out. Did you feel like a loser?
No, not at all. Oh my God, not at all. Like I remember I was in this like math lecture. It was this giant hall and it was like a math level 2-3 class, something that I had zero interest in. And the professor that was teaching, he had such broken English that I couldn't understand him. And I'm in this giant hall with like 300 people, and we're trying to learn something that I not only don't give a shit about, I can't understand, and I'm paying for it. And I'm like, this is dumb. There has to be another way. There has to be something better or more fun or whatever. And I never went back. And I would probably be like credit-wise a sophomore maybe, like ish. Like I finished a freshman year, went into a little bit, maybe a quarter or semester, whatever we were on back in 2000, early 2000s. But yeah, it was just, I think a lot of people, like if you have your parents paying for it, hell yeah, go explore, but don't think you're going to figure out what you want to do in your life.
Yeah, but talk about, you had to have some confidence because I'm looking back when I was in college, like you didn't have any, like you're a sophomore, you're like, now you're just kind of like, now what do I do? And your family was just kind of like, okay, like it's all good.
Yeah, my parents they were always like, we never worried about you. They always said that, they say that. They were like, we never really worried about you. We know that you'd figure your way out. So I just did.
Right.
Like I did name that tune in bars for a little while. Got a serving job at Max Nirma's still today. One of the best jobs I've ever had. Yeah. One of my partners in the business is a guy that I met at Max Nirma's back at City Center.
Right.
Back in early 2000s.
City Center,
right.
R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Right.
Well, one thing that I thought about when I was reading, I was like, okay, so business 101, right? You look around, you see something that's already built or that's going well, and you're like, wait, they have this here and it's not here. Let me fill this need.
Totally.
Which that's just one way of looking at something. A lot of people just kind of go through, they would never even think about that. So you have the business, you obviously, we're innately kind of an entrepreneur. So you see these bikes and you're like, okay, yeah. You start doing that. And then you're like, let's bring this back to Columbus.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
which
I was,
sounds so simple.
It really is. But I mean, I would give that advice to anybody coming out of college or coming out of high school, like go travel. Like travel, take a year and just not only travel the United States, that's the safe bet, backpack Europe. You will never, ever, ever regret traveling in your life, especially when you don't have kids and a house and a mortgage and, all the other stuff that starts to weigh you down the later in life you get. Like when you have, for the most part, no responsibility, go travel. You'll never regret it. Not only will you expand your mind just from people and culture and everything, you'll see cool things that people are doing in Italy or Spain or Chicago or Louisville, whatever. It doesn't have to be exotic. It's just go travel, see other cultures, other places, other cities. And there's cool shit going on there that's not going on in your city. Yeah. I mean, I certainly didn't invent pizza by the slice.
Right. But,
I didn't invent pedicabs. There was just a need for them in the neighborhood that I lived in. And I was one of the first ones to do it.
How much would you pocket? Like, what was like a high night for you? Were you like
on the pedicabs?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I would say like, you'd have like the OSU games, like the OSU home games were just like gravy for us. $500, $800 in an afternoon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How heavy was that? Like what a pain in the ass, or was it?
It's It's like the best real life cycling or spinning class you can take. So pedicabs themselves weigh a couple 100 pounds, and then you can fit as many as 4 adults. So that could be for small children, or that can be for linebackers. So it doesn't matter. You can get 4 big dudes in the back of that thing, and you're hauling around, 1,000 pounds on your giant tricycle. So at that point, I was doing the best job like you can do to be in shape. My calves were just like things to admire. And then I later traded that in for eating pizza. Hence where the softness came in, right?
So were there nights where like people would roll up to the pedicab and they were like really tiny and you're like, sweet, I don't have to. And then you'd see like, big dudes and you're like, oh God, this is going to be
hard. Yeah,
because you're not always up for that every night, right?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're at work, you're at work.
But you're cycling people around. Whenever I see people doing that, I'm always like, bless you.
Yeah. It's an intense job. And what's funny is like you think going through like say the Short North and downtown Columbus, you think it's pretty flat, going from like the Short North to the German Village, you imagine that's relatively flat. It is not. That is some hilly terrain when you're carrying 1,000 pounds worth of drunk person in a giant tricycle.
You keep like bananas and nuts and shit like under your...
Oh, yeah. You have water bottles and protein bars and everything.
Do people engage you a lot? Or do they just let you like... Were they like, dude, are you all right?
It's kind of, when you have like a hard haul like that and you're like obviously working really hard, those who are aware will just tip the shit out of you.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. I mean, they're like, thanks, dude. You're working really, really hard. You're out of the saddle. You're just like, ah.
Was there any wild things that you heard or saw or witnessed? What was the one that sticks out? Like a wild pedicab night?
I kind of arguably met my wife on a pedicab.
Oh, really?
Kind of. That was, I guess,
pretty
crazy.
Kind of?
Because I met her friend, and I was really interested in her friend, and I was like, she was like my regular.
Yeah.
Her friend. And she'd call me. She's like, Michael, where are you? And I'd be like, I'm down at, Union. Can you make it down here? She's like, okay, I'll be down. And I go and pick her up and, take her and her friends around. And I started hanging out with them because I was kind of interested in the friend. Ended up meeting my wife through the group.
And the rest is history.
2 kids.
In love.
Yeah, 12 years.
I like the fact that while you're on this pedicab and everyone's like looking for this late night slice, like, where's the pizza? You have all these drunk people, and then all of a sudden you're like, ding, ding, where is the late night slice? I mean, that's right. But think about that. It's so simple.
Right, exactly.
People out there that are trying to, figure out this big idea or whatever, sometimes it's just paying attention.
Sure.
To a need or filling some kind of void.
It is. And being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
There's a certain amount of luck. There's a certain amount of, looking for a hole in the market that, could kind of easily be filled. It was, like I said, I never invented all this stuff. But if you think about it, I always thought I wasn't in the pedicab business and I wasn't in the pizza by the slice business. I was in the late night services business.
Right.
So it was all this stuff that happened late at night because obviously that's when I was hanging out because I was in my, mid-20s and we were just out bar hopping in the Short North. We lived there. That was our playground. So, yeah, I was just like, I was there enough to realize that they needed some better food and they needed some transportation on the streets.
And so when you decide to do the pizza, then you're buying shit from like, Trader Joe's and you're not, obviously you don't even know the efficient process. You just know you're going to get slices out there, right?
I had never made a pizza in my life.
Right. So how much then did you initially, how much were you paying for one of those big pizzas?
I think we started off buying like pre-made pizzas from Pizza Primo in Clintonville. And that lasted for about a week or 2. How
much was that?
I think I was buying them for like $7.
And so how many slices in a pie?
I think 6.
And how much were you selling the slices for?
$3. So I was buying it for 7. Yeah. And then I was selling it for 18.
Okay.
Or so.
Not too shabby.
So my margins weren't great.
Well, they
but
were
it was
terrible.
Enough. It was enough to get started. It was enough to get lines out the door.
Yeah.
And that's what we started getting is lines out the door. Again, the pizza wasn't that great. It was just available at the time that people wanted it. And that's when you're like, okay, now I had no idea there were like food service companies that delivered food. Like I had no idea about the restaurant business. Never came from the restaurant business, pizza, nothing. So we started buying ingredients from Trader Joe's because they had those like dough balls, and I would go buy grocery bags of dough balls from Trader Joe's, and that's when we started making our own pizza. And I learned how to make pizza, like the actual like crafted pizza. Not that most people consider the adjective craft and late night slice used in the same sentence. But I learned how to make pizza on YouTube. Like, just learned how to like stretch a dough ball into a round sheet of dough just by watching videos.
So to get it to where it is today, how did you end up like, okay, this is the recipe for the crust. This is what we want. This is the branded Mikey slice.
Trial and error. 100% trial and error. Like, in the beginning, it was me and my buddy Jason, a couple other friends, because at that time it was all of my friends working in the shop, in the shack in the Short North. So we had all this time that we were pretty much just drinking and smoking pot while we were at work, because this was an experiment. This was just fun. This was not a serious business. We were just making pizza late at night. And so we just decided to start making pizza the way we like to eat pizza. And it was dipping sauces, and it was, big foldable slices, and it was, a pretty simple menu. We still only have one size pizza. It's an 18-inch extra large. That's it.
I like that idea because it's this is the size you get.
Simple.
You get what you get. You don't throw a fit.
Yeah. And not only that, but then having fun with it, having fun with the world's favorite food.
Yeah.
So, we created a fun voice around pizza.
Yeah.
We had fun. We used to tell, stupid jokes, and that was part of our social media, and that was part of our brand. That was part of our developing brand. I don't think we knew it at the time that we were developing a brand. But
we didn't either.
Yeah, right?
You figure it out, though.
Yeah. And that's how you become part of Columbus pop culture, is that you be authentic and you have fun and you don't take yourself too seriously. And I think people really respond to that.
Yep.
Because there's a big place in Columbus for experience and being authentic. I've always said, like, we wanted to be a place where if you go and pick your friend up from the airport who's never been in Columbus, I want to be on that spot of places that you have to go, because that is part of the people and their culture. This is one of the places that defines Columbus.
Yep.
You have to stop at this place. And I think there's a lot of room for that around here.
There definitely is. And I think SOS too has become this sort of landmark spot for people. We have people who are like, I'm visiting from out of town, and someone told me I definitely had to hit up this workout. Yeah. We're like, that's so flattering and so unexpected.
Sure.
But to be on that list is really cool.
It is really cool.
So, okay, so now you're like catapulting from this is just an experiment to holy shit, we're like, this is big boy time now. We're gonna open locations. Like, where are you right now with all of that? And like, what's your biggest pain in the ass you're dealing with right now, or your biggest challenge?
Sure. Well, COVID was fun for restaurants.
I mean,
and gyms too, right? Yeah.
Still traumatized.
Still. Oh, absolutely.
I don't even want to like complain too much about it, because I'm like, okay, what's coming around the corner? Like what? Yeah. Now it makes me realize like this shit's possible. Like this stuff just happened.
Sure.
So who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
It's real scary.
Yeah.
Do you get like still like weird feelings when you even think
100%.
about it?
Yeah.
Horrible.
In fact, there was just like a COVID breakout a couple weeks ago with like, a family function that I was at, and I'm like, we're still dealing with this shit. Like still, like, I guess so. But yeah, 100%. Like, I still look at like the things we went through, and the business, like our business specifically, and I would argue the entire hospitality industry still isn't, back whole. Revenue might be back, elements may be back, some elements may be even better than they were pre-COVID. But I would guess that almost anybody who's in hospitality would say, yeah, it's not the same. It's different. People are different. Habits are different. Things are harder than they used to be. Shit is way more expensive than it used to be. So I think we're still dealing with the aftershocks, and I always said that, the aftershocks were way worse than the earthquake. And I think we're still dealing with aftershocks. And maybe that's the new norm now.
Well, COVID it has what you call a long tail.
Sure does.
Sure does.
And it keeps whipping us in the face.
Seriously. And you know what? When you say people are different, it really things have a different feel.
They do. They really do. And it's adjusting to that new norm. And not only like, because I think it's easy for us to adjust as business owners. Like, we have to. We have to pivot to survive. We have to change to survive. We have to do the things we have to do to keep our business. And a lot of times that is raising prices. And that's just a reality. And I think it's going to take, for us, it's kind of an easy decision. Not that it's easy, but it's a necessary decision to get people to realize that, a plate of eggs is now $12 and not $7, or a slice of pizza is now $5, not, $4, or a class,
right.
is, $25 and not $18 anymore. It's a little bit different, and it's going to take that. I think the learning curve and being looked at as, price gouging and whatever. It's like, no, we're not. Things are different now. People want more money, and that's great. But that comes at a cost, like you just can't. I think people a lot of times assume that just like a small business is the same business as a giant corporation. And it's not. there's so much different.
You're doing everything on a shoestring.
Everything's on a shoestring. And the margins, I've always said about our industry, and especially restaurants, like there are easier ways to make money.
Oh, for sure.
I promise.
Yes. No, absolutely.
This business is
That's a labor of love.
Hard.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And so now you're opening up on campus.
Yep.
Which, hello, I'm going to say cha-ching on that. Like,
I hope so.
I just think that's
our front door is going to open up east down 15th, down Sorority and Fraternity Row. They will literally walk down to High Street and our front door will be open. So
no brainer.
I hope so.
So what is the goal then? And I hate this when people say, what's your 5-year business plan? I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
But what are you looking towards? Are you looking towards more like, hey, I really want to have like X number of locations outside? Like, what is that kind of, what are you dreaming up in here?
So I would say we've really narrowed our focus lately. I would say we've been in business for 14 years as of this last July 4th. So that was our 14th birthday, which is crazy. Now that we've been open 14 years,
you're a hormonal teenager.
We are not only are we a hormonal teenager, there are kids that were raised from birth on Late Night Slice that are now hormonal teenagers.
Wild.
They can almost drive. So it's funny that we've been in business long enough to grow an entire generation of kids that were used to having us, and they're used to Pizza Face, and they're used to our boxes and our product. So it's kind of cool. And that's one awesome aspect of it. Plans though, I think for the longest time, for like 13 and a half years, our like growth model was fuck it, let's try it. And we have sold pizza in and out of whatever you can imagine us selling pizza out of, from bar kitchens to Airstream trailers to concert venues, little windows on the side of the street. Like you name it, we have tried to sell pizza in or out of it. And that's fine. That's cool. We've established, a wonderful little brand in Columbus. But I think we built, this is my partner and I were just having this conversation. We have built a growth brand, systems, processes, brand. Everything is like good enough to grow, multi-city, probably beyond. And we've just been running it like a little lifestyle business for this long. So it's like, okay, let's get off the pot here. We've been doing this for long enough. We've been working very hard for a decade and a half almost to create a brand that's ready to grow. Now it's time to do it.
That's when shit gets serious.
Exactly.
That's when things get real. And when you have a partner, right?
Right.
Clearly you're married to your partner.
And that's the best way to put it. It is a marriage. 100%.
You are married, and I'm certain that he has different, I hope, complementary skill sets to you.
180-degree difference.
Okay, so that's great because then but what drives him crazy about you? Like, what's the one thing where he's like, oh God, there Mikey goes again?
I'd say we're probably aligned more now than we've ever been. But if I were to hold up the sign that he would probably hold up, just being unfocused.
Unfocused. Okay, you're like squirrel.
I'm the creative. On the creative side, he's the implementer.
Okay, what's his name?
Bryce.
What drives you crazy about Bryce?
I don't think there's anything that drives me crazy about Bryce.
Bugs you.
Sometimes I want him to be like, yeah, okay. Bryce rarely shares my enthusiasm.
Yeah, he's tempered. He's tempered.
He is very tempered. So I'm like, dude, let's do this, and he's like, no. And I'm like, jeez.
Wait, how does he do it?
No, absolutely not. Like,
what is the best thing that he brings to the table for you, where you're like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, What's his
structure and discipline?
Okay,
100%.
Okay, and then yours is clearly the passion and the creativity, right?
I just what gets me out of bed is certainly not pizza. It's certainly not alcohol. That's actually what probably keeps me in bed most of these mornings. But what gets me out of bed is creating spaces that people in Columbus want to go to. That's what I like doing, is creating fun, authentic places that people in our community were like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, I love going to that place and I want to show people that place.
Yeah.
So that's what I love doing. And when you're growing a brand that, there's two ways, I guess, grow to restaurants. You can do it the Cameron Mitchell way, which is having, tons of different brands. Or you do it, the way we're probably supposed to do it, grow one brand and grow a lot of that same, look at Piata, grow one concept, do a ton of them. And the latter is way easier than growing a bunch of different brands with a bunch of different, peculiarities and everything. So I tend to just want to go towards the shiny things and have fun with it. But I know I shouldn't.
Well,
so that's the hardest thing for me.
It just all depends on what your goals are, right? It sounds like your goal is to grow it, to scale it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for a creative, that's when it gets, I think, can be less fun. It can be more challenging and things start to get way more structured operationally. And I think that's where sometimes you talk to entrepreneurs and it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
So what are you guys going, what are you going to do? Like what's your approach to growth? Or is that kind of private?
No, not a bit. It's I think we're going to look at college campuses because I think, and if everything works out at OSU, I think that's kind of our toe in the water. There's a ton of opportunity with college campuses all around. I think our brand lends itself very, very well to, the college crew. It's still kind of youthful and hip, even after 14 years. And we're almost 43 now between, so we're still keeping this thing kind of current and relevant, which is good. It's a struggle. But
now, are you keeping this corporate owned?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of bankroll it through investors, or you guys just do it yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's for the most part bank loans. We have never taken on any kind of private money or anything.
I know we've had people ask, and it's just a real scary.
It really is.
But then you come to a point where you kind of get put in a corner where you have to get capital somewhere.
Yeah, totally. And I think it depends on the goals. You know, if you want a lifestyle business, I think that was one of the things that I've had to come around to. And maybe you have as well. There's nothing wrong. I think when you get into business and you build yourself a brand that has growth potential, the tendency is to just grow the shit out of it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you feel guilty.
Yep. You feel like you didn't, like you lost something.
Like you're wasting it, or you're not good enough, or, but it takes somebody being like, there's nothing wrong with having a lifestyle business and having a wonderful house in a wonderful neighborhood and supporting your family and having 3 or 4 locations that spin off enough to provide you the lifestyle you want, and it's manageable. But everybody wants to just say they have, they had a multi-million-dollar exit and they have, 60 locations and they're coast to coast, and that's fine. That's one way to do it. And to be honest, that's kind of the way we're going right now.
How important is that to you as an individual? Not you and Bryce collectively, but to you. How important is that to you to have that big exit? If you had to say scale of 1 to 10.
It's different now, and this is all, bear with me for a second. It's different now because my situation has changed. As in, when I started this puppy, it was pretty easy to feed. Mm-hmm. Now it's a big bulldog and he eats a lot of food. So as in, we have 200 employees. I have a different living situation now that I have 2 kids and a wife and a family to support. So, before I would have been like, let's just try and grow it. And if we make it big, and that's cool. And if we not, that's cool too. But now it's like, all right, I have, I think this thing needs to grow. I wouldn't mind some kind of, change in relationship. It doesn't have to be an exit. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be this big grand thing that they're going to be, writing about in Columbus Business First. I don't really care about that. I've had to deal with that ego and putting that ego to rest a little bit and realizing that, things are different now. So it's kind of a convoluted way to be like, I do want my relationship to change with the business at some point.
Okay.
Because I think there's somebody else that could probably do a little better with it.
From a structure perspective,
Correct.
right? So this is what I think is beautiful about you, is that you know that. You know where your passion is and where you like the shiny objects, you like the new things, you like,
right.
and that may not serve you as well to be in all of the other stuff, but you can still benefit from. I think that's brilliant.
So right now it's about focus. It's about focusing on, the next 2 to 3 years and getting this thing, to the point where people may be interested in it.
Does your wife stay at home with the kids?
She does.
So I want to see if our personalities line up with this, because when you are in an entrepreneurial, I hate that word, by the way.
I know, me too.
Can we make up something else?
I've always hated it.
Wait, we just made up one. We just brought an old word back, but can we make up a new? I hear myself say it. I'm like, okay, when you are. When you're building something,
sure.
When you're building something,
you're a business owner,
whatever, entrepreneur to you, you're in love with it. It's a love affair.
Sure.
Just like a business partnership is a marriage.
It's a kid. Yeah.
So it's a love affair that you have, but it's a love affair that exists inside your head.
Yeah.
So like everybody sees you kind of walking around, but you are literally living and breathing all of this all the time, and you're having these highs and lows, and you're on this roller coaster. I suck, I'm awesome. I suck, I'm awesome. Does that sound familiar at all?
It sounds like the comment section and anything that talks about late night slice.
Okay, but then you have this partner, who is experiencing it with you, but and is rooting for you, but they're not in the ring.
Yeah, right.
And they want you to turn it off sometimes.
100%. Yeah.
And finding, and another word I hate, let's just go for what we hate, balance.
Yeah. All right.
but trying to figure out, because at the end of my life, we tried really hard to have Dane, and we actually have a surrogate right now. I'm getting ready to pop out a baby in 2 weeks.
Are you really? Oh
we try. God. I mean, we had horrible infertility. So I say that to say, I don't want to be at the end of my life and have missed the important shit because of what you said, the exit, the ego, the, wanting to somehow be this quote unquote success. Does your wife, I guarantee she can kind of probably get tired of certain things, but how does she support and how does she kind of pull you back and be like, okay, you need to kind of, or is that, am I projecting because that's what happened in my life?
Not at all. I think that the only difference is now, because I think that's the way it starts, like when you are in the beginning of this thing, whatever your thing is, you are the person 100%, you are doing everything. Like I was doing in the beginning, I was doing the plumbing and the electrical work and the painting and, making the pizzas and creating the systems, documenting the processes, trying to figure out what the hell taxes were, and compliances and health codes and dealing with all that shit. So you're doing it all yourself. And then I think the best lesson is, you got to let go to grow. Mm-hmm. And that's something I guess I learned on, I probably learned a little too early. I don't know if I learned it, but I embraced it probably a little too early. Cause I not that I let go of anything too quickly, but I always knew that like, I can't wait to hand this thing off, or I can't wait to hand this thing off. And there wasn't a lot of structure to what I was handing off.
Yeah.
I was just like, let's hand it off. So stick with me for a second.
Yeah.
I have done a pretty good job of creating the hated word balance. So when I get home these days, I would say before kids, it was, I have a 1.5 and a 4-year-old now. 5 years ago, I was a little bit more chaotic, and it was a little bit more like, you got your job, I got my job, let's go do our jobs. And, luckily at that time, there was a lot of layers between me and the, 2 a.m. calls. And there's even more now. So I would, if I were to put words in my wife's mouth, I would say,
be careful.
I know, right? She'll probably listen to this.
No, she better.
She better, right? Yeah. I would say I've done a pretty good job of, knowing when to turn off the work thing and being pretty good at, having my work life. Mm-hmm. If anything, I think I will say this to her face, I think I've let's make sure I'm choosing the correct adjective here. I think she's a little spoiled with the amount of freedom that I have, and as in like, do I actually work? You know, like my job seems to always be kind of optional, depending on what needs to be done within the family.
Hey, but you know what? I mean, yeah.
And sometimes I need to be like, hey, I actually have to do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, that's something.
This is a big hungry bulldog and we need to feed this thing.
You know, it's interesting though. So my husband's a teacher.
Yeah.
And things are very cut and dry for him. Like he goes and he comes home. And just like with most people, whether you're a teacher, you're an accountant, whatever that 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 is, when you look at someone like me or like you, it's hard to, you're like, wait, are you working? Or you, like my husband will look at me and he'll go, Carrie, who are you, you're talking to yourself right now. Who are you talking to? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like it's a whole different language and a whole different existence. So
right. it really is
to try to get you, for your partner to really be able to sort of support and understand and deal with the crazy. It's a thing. You
know, and I'll even go like a step further because age and stage, I think, is even transforming for me at this point where, 5 or so years ago, even I would say a couple of years ago, probably right around COVID, and I think this happens for every entrepreneur that's either been in it this long or has gotten to the age where they're pretty much like myself, unemployable. I have one job and that's, doing my own thing now. I can't imagine even going back to a 9 to 5. At this point, I am completely unemployable. If this whole pizza and booze thing evaporates, I'm not sure what I'll do.
I'm sure you'll figure something out. I'm sure
right?
you'll figure something out. Someone tells me.
Like, I think your job starts to morph into maintaining relationships as opposed to working. So your working is now maintaining relationships, hence like me starting to golf now and me starting to like take more lunches or more happy hours or, coffees or podcasts, right?
With really cool hosts.
With really, really cool people.
I mean, hello.
This is the highlight of my week, and I'm not even saying.
Thank you.
This is great.
That makes me happy.
And this is at the end of my week too.
Good.
So I have a week to look back and I'm like,
good.
This is awesome. But I think that's kind of hard for, your family to understand sometimes that you're like, yeah, I know I seem like I'm just fucking off this week because I got, 3 lunches, 2 happy hours, and I'm golfing 2 days a week. But that's kind of my job now. Yeah. It's just different than it used to be.
Well, not kind of. It is your job now.
It is. Right. It's more maintaining relationships, and that's just a different phase of
and you've earned
this part. And that's another thing too. And I think that's a hard thing to understand too, is like, well, yeah, I've been doing this long enough too. Like I have people that do the stuff that I used to do and, do the stuff that I don't like to do.
You have to give yourself permission to be in the phase you're in now and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody else was witness to all the grinding and the jack of all trades and all the hats that you were wearing, but you remember.
Yeah.
So I mean, take it.
Yeah. And is that hard for you too, to just like, because I mean, here's the thing, we have natural energy. I think anybody that's created their own brand or just does their own thing has this energy that like, it has to get out. Like it's somehow, or I'll chew through the furniture or something.
Oh
right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard. Everything's hard for me. I mean, any of these things, like the whole, the beginning was hard in different ways. And now that you created this brand and you feel so lucky and so honored. I mean, I just feel so overwhelmed that people feel the way they feel about it. And now you have this thing that you want to make sure that you protect and you can scale. But the reality of doing that changes everything.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It changes everything.
Yeah. When you decide to take that, when you decide,
changes
you're like,
everything.
all right.
And to scale is just...
It's hard.
So many elements that have to go into it.
It's really hard.
So when you say your relationship is going to change, I can read between the lines there. Like, what would you see... What do you want to do after this? Like if there isn't after this, like let's say you're lucky enough to work something out here with this late night slice and you get some, you're doing well. What's your like next, or do you not have one? Is it just going to kind of organically come to you?
This is where it gets dangerous. Because if I'm into a situation where money becomes a sport and not just like a necessity, right? Somebody like me, I think is going to need, someone to curb my enthusiasm.
A Bryce?
Right. Yeah. I'm going to like it or not. He's like stuck with me. because I still have that mind where I look around Columbus and I'm just like, oh, it would be really cool if that was here, or it would be really cool if, this other thing that I just went and traveled to was, and saw that was working splendidly in this other city, if we had a version of that here. So yeah, I think that's going to be, that's what I look forward to.
Yeah, I think it'll be great.
And it's going to be so hard for me not to do a restaurant again, because I do love restaurants. It's just hard.
Well, so when you say it's going to be are you trying to tell yourself today, like, I'm not going to do any more restaurants?
Say I walked away right now and, late night slice sailed off into the sunset and I went another direction. I would not do another restaurant.
You'd take a minute. I would never say never.
I wouldn't immediately do another restaurant. I would not jump right back into restaurants. Just because it's hard right now. I would argue it's harder than ever hospitality is right now. So I'd probably let that thing go for a little while, but there's so many cool things that Columbus would just, create, sit back and watch it take off. But there's also a lot of other stuff, around here too that, that could be developed. So
yeah. Anything else on, advice you would give to, I'm always about offering any sort of thing in your head that resonates with you to someone out there who's sort of listening, like, oh my gosh, it's Mikey and this is his journey. And anything out there that you could tell an up and coming business owner or somebody who's in the grind.
Yeah.
Any sage advice?
I always look at, authenticity is a little bit hard, but just not taking yourself too seriously. And I think that's where we've, really carved out a niche in our market, is that, we've taken something very, very familiar. I say we always deal in the world's two favorite things, pizza and booze. But it's not the pizza and the booze that set us apart necessarily. I think we have awesome pizza. I think we have great drinks, but it's not our pizza and drinks. It's the things that we've done around the pizza and the drinks that have carved out our little niche, not only in Columbus, but elsewhere. So, take something that's easy. Take whatever you're familiar with and look at all the other things that you can do with it. Have a personality on social media, tell jokes, have fun with yourself, make people laugh. My God.
It's all too serious, isn't it?
It's all too serious. Just have fun with whatever you're familiar with.
But don't you think people are afraid right now just to be who they are? I feel like there's so much fronting. Did I just say fronting?
Fronting, man. You're two now.
Come here, give me.
Are we hitting that rock? Right.
Don't be fronting out there. Don't be fronting. Be yourself on social media.
We're gonna turn into a Budweiser commercial here. Like, what's that?
What's that? Bring Budweiser back. Bring Bud Light back.
Bud.
Oh my God. But yeah, I think there's all this. I don't know, some kind of veneer or something. Everyone's so careful and so polished, and so afraid. I think that's why authenticity right now truly stands out.
Yeah, right.
It
really does.
It always does to me, but I think now more than ever, because it's not easy to find.
Sure, and it's so easy to apologize for. And I really admire people that are just like, nope, I don't agree with you. I'm doing it this way, and fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Yeah.
Bravo.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, Mikey, thank you so much.
It was so much fun.
This has been an I actually want to have you back. Like, you're great. You're a great guest.
I think we have a lot more to talk about.
No, we've just scratched the surface. Thank you for the pizza.
My pleasure.
And the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, and if you're still out there, follow your girl on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And until next time, keep moving. That was really good. That was so fun.
Oh, that was a blast.